सारा कुछ है इधर नहीं जाना ना वो क्यों उतर गया है Đây là thấy khủng khiếp rồi. Đó, nhà ông anh trai tôi đây. Đúng rồi. Đó, coi như là hồi 3 giờ sáng đó. Mà may ông nó thoát nạn nữa.
Tài sáng thì nói chung là lúa thóc, chủ yếu là lương thực chính mà đã hư. Gà, vịt, heo đồ mất hết. Rồi công việc làm không có. Xong rồi cặn cắt thì mấy ngày liền là không có điện. Mới trả điện sáng này thấy nó hơi ổn lại chứ. Chung vất ra đủ điều.
Western Australia is a state on high alert as emergency services prepared for extreme weather conditions. Rebecca Johns, what is the situation at the moment?
Tracy, two tropical lows are tracking inland towards the Kimberley and Pilbara and could develop into cyclones. The first low is currently southwest of Darwin and is moving in a southwesterly direction, bringing with it extremely heavy rain. The second is 700 kilometres off the northwest coast of WA and could make landfall over the weekend. If that becomes a cyclone, it's likely to be a Category 2. Two potential cyclones in the north, a severe fire danger in the south.
We say at the outset it's pretty complicated.
A low pressure system currently over the Northern Territory could cross the Kimberley as early as tomorrow, bringing heavy rain and strong winds.
Rain is going to be the problem for the Kimberley. Already we've seen good falls of rain in the last few weeks in the Kimberley. The catchments are quite wet. We're expecting over the next couple of days to see rainfall totals 200 to 300 millimetres over those few days.
A second low slowly tracking towards the Pilbara may make landfall on Christmas Eve. Emergency officers in Perth are on standby to fly there. Christmas travellers now warned to rethink unnecessary travel as roads could be closed. Meantime, in the south of the state, the mercury is set to soar to 41 degrees in Perth tomorrow, prompting a total fire ban. Emergency services preparing for a severe fire danger in the Perth Hills and south of the metropolitan area. Residents are urged to monitor all warnings online and to have an evacuation plan in place. Rebecca Johns, 9 News.
To West Africa now, where Nigeria's sprawling commercial capital, Lagos, is already feeling the impact of climate change. Rising sea levels pose a threat to the city's sustainability, and some coastal communities are on the verge of being wiped out. Deji Badmus has more.
Okun Alfa used to be a tourist haven. Thousands would come here for its beach. The beach is all but gone, and the tourists have gone too. It means hard times for the locals, but the future looks even worse. The entire community, over 5,000 people, is under threat from the rising waters of the Atlantic. This heap of sand right behind me is like the last line of defense for this community. Unfortunately, it's not a good defense line. Right across the sand is the sea. The water keeps encroaching, and if something is not done very fast, well, these buildings over here would definitely go. Look at this church, for instance, it will go. And then even the house of the traditional ruler of this community won't be spared. That's it, sitting over there. So something really has to happen, or else this whole community will be submerged. These elders say Okun Alfa has changed dramatically in their lifetime.
The community used to be way out where you have the sea now. In the past, you'd walk around 5,000 meters to get to the mouth of the beach. But that is not the case now. The water has washed away several homes. The community cemetery that is over 400 years old has been washed away. We no longer enjoy the water at all.
The government is erecting a stone barrier close to the shore to try and hold back the waves. People here say the workers need to move quickly.
They should please be fast. Those of us left here are not at peace. We have nowhere to go. We plead with the government to speed up with the shoreline protection work. They shouldn't let Okun Alfa disappear. The community is just too big to disappear like that.
It's a race against time for the community. If the stone barrier does not come up fast enough, the water will surely take over, and Okun Alfa will be lost to the sea. Deji Badmus, Okun Alfa, Lagos, Nigeria.
The study is the first ever to survey the opinions of millennials in Africa on the topic of climate change, including their fears and concerns, as well as their willingness to act and the means they need to do so. According to the survey, 86% of African millennials notice more frequent and unpredictable rains. 79% of them report increased diseases of crops and livestock, and more than 70% say they have noted the progress of desertification and increase in forest fires.
We're in the winter, but it rarely rains. It's the rainy season, but we do not really have it.
The survey also finds that more than 70% of young people consider making renewable energies the first source of energy used in Africa a priority.
I believe that young people are not sensitive enough and that they should be more sensitive for action by doing small gestures like turning off the light to save energy or promoting more walking instead of using cars.
For a long time, a lack of good governance and struggling economies have made the continent particularly vulnerable to the effects of global climate change. That in turn makes it harder for many African countries to achieve sustainable economic and energy development. Maria Galang, CCTV.
Central Canada is getting hit with a blast of bitterly cold air. This sound from earlier this week will be replaced with the sound of teeth chattering over the next couple of days. Temperatures are going to be well below seasonal across Ontario and Quebec. Overnight, wind chills are forecast to dip as low as -41 in some places. Environment Canada has issued extreme cold warnings for much of northern Ontario and Quebec.
It's going to be a very scary time if you don't have a place to lie your head at night.
And some unseasonably cold air has also moved into southern BC. Vancouver will be below zero until Sunday. Arctic outflow warnings have been issued as far south as the Fraser Valley, with wind chills hitting -20 overnight. For more on what we can expect, I want to bring in David Phillips, senior climatologist for Environment Canada. He joins us now from Barrie, Ontario, and not wearing a hat. Dave, it's cold out there. Where's your toque?
I know, Marcy. I'm not being a Canadian. I tell people to wear hats to keep that heat in, and I'm just breaking all the rules, for sure.
How cold is it expected to get over the next few days? And really, Dave, who's going to get the worst of the cold temperatures?
Well, Marcia, what we have seen that has been gripping the West is now going to, of course, come to the central and eastern part of the country. Here in the east, it looks like winter, but now it's going to feel like winter. We're really going to see from almost coast to coast, not quite Newfoundland, but we're going to see temperatures that are clearly much colder for this time of the year, as we are a week away from the official beginning of winter. We're going to see temperatures in Victoria, Vancouver, they haven't seen in 4 years. And on the prairies, we're going to see, again, temperatures that are typically 12 to 16 degrees colder than they should be. Some of the coldest temperatures of the winter. We're going to be seeing record heat usage in parts of Saskatchewan. And here in central Canada and eastern Canada, we're going to get really kind of a cold in 2 waves. We're going to get today and tomorrow temperatures that are perhaps 6-8 degrees colder than normal, and that's the honest temperature, not the wind chill. Then we're going to get a shot of kind of, as a system comes through, a little bit of mild air come on the weekend, and then right back into the cold air. But the really good news is that a week from now, we're going to see a moderation of temperatures, not above freezing, but certainly much more civil and much more, actually even a little milder than normal in the west and near normal in the east. And I think a lot of Canadians will feel that that's almost a festive gift from nature for what has been a very cold couple of weeks.
Well, we look forward to that. So we're also hearing, Dave, about the polar vortex again. Does the polar vortex come and go throughout the season, or is it something that sits there just waiting for the tap to loosen every once in a while and blast us with cold air?
Marcy, it does come and go, but unlike the warm air at this time of the year, the polar vortex kind of sits over us and just stays the course. It's sort of like molasses. It's thick and heavy, it hugs the ground, fills all the cracks, and then it just stays there. It takes a lot of energy to kick it out. So what we're seeing, of course, at this time of the year, polar vortex doesn't last as long as it would be in the dead of winter, January, February, but clearly in the West, it's been hanging out there like an unwanted house guest and won't leave. but we're going to see a change there. They're going to feel better next week at this time. And here in the east, we're going to get little teasers, almost like a little appetizer today and tomorrow, and then a break on the weekend, and then back into it, and then it'll be out of it again. So I think we're going to see it in its many different disguises. And then, of course, by January, February, when we see more polar vortex, we'll be veterans of these weather wars.
I don't know if we'll ever be veterans. Dave Phillips, I know it's about -8, -9 there, so we'll let you get back in and get warm. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you, Marcia. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye now.
Much of the country is waking up to frigid and potentially dangerous cold temperatures are below freezing right now for millions of Americans around the country. The cold stretches from cities in the Pacific Northwest all the way down to the southeast. Now, between now and Sunday, below freezing temperatures are expected in 49 states. That's a lot. 14 states from the Mountain West to the Great Lakes are under winter storm warnings. The wind chill on New Hampshire's Mount Washington this morning was, listen to this number, 87 degrees below zero. Wow. DeMarco Morgan is in Syracuse, New York. DeMarco, how you hanging? How you doing?
It is cold out here, Gail. That's to say the least. But 87 below, I couldn't deal with that. I didn't think I could handle that. But many of the people here in upstate New York will be waking up to streets like this completely covered in snow. Gail, you can't even make out the sidewalks here. But here's the one thing that you want to be careful about. You can see down here in the street, there are sheets and pockets of ice that are beneath this white powdery stuff. So if you just plan on getting out here, you want to play it safe.
Overnight, strong winds and snow pummeled western New York as the brutal cold and winter-like weather stretches from the Midwest.
Don't really feel like doing anything right now. I just want to go back to bed.
To the Northeast.
It's freezing out here. I feel like it's going to blow me away.
In Oswego, this time-lapse video shows a wall of lake-effect snow burying the region. About 35 miles north of Syracuse, people battled whiteout conditions in the village of Pulaski. On the roads, the storm conditions created havoc. One pileup in western Pennsylvania involved 59 vehicles, and more than 24 motorists were involved in a crash that sent at least 6 to the hospital on Long Island in New York.
We were driving along and the car hit us in the back, and he swerved to try and not hit this car, and we got hit again.
The dangerous roads made it impossible for Nancy Abbott to get deliveries at our food bank in Adams, New York.
Does it frighten you? Does it concern you?
Well, of course I'm concerned because we have, approximately the same people coming each month to get an extra bit of food, and when we can't offer it, it's sad.
It is sad. That food delivery was actually supposed to be coming from right here in Syracuse, New York. We have good news for the families who are expecting that food. The delivery will be made sometime today. Charlie?
Thanks to Marco.
We went up and again in a Black Hawk helicopter today thanks to the North Dakota National Guard.
The levee that we're sitting on right now was built to protect us from the last flood in this area, which was actually in 1969.
Yeah, the river's down there.
Yeah.
There's no possible way it could come up here.
Yeah, it's a long ways down there.
Or so you thought.
Yeah, or so we thought.
Major sections of Minot, North Dakota have vanished due to an ongoing flooding situation as melted snow pours down this river system into the city and back up into Canada.
In 2011, it was something like I've never seen.
Floodwater wiped out a quarter of our city.
Sean Sipma lost everything when that Canadian water turned his hometown into a slow-moving disaster.
They took a historic record rainfall throughout most of the basin in Canada, 7 inches across the basin in Canada, and it was game over.
This tiny little strip of barbed wire is the international border between Canada and the United States. The water that flows through here knows no international treaty. Mother Nature does what she wants as she melts the snow up in Canada and pushes that water down into the United States. Parts of Minot are already vanishing, boarded up by the changing oil industry and this new flood risk. A change in the weather forming a new future they did not expect.
We have to acclimate ourselves to the new normal, and the new normal, it's not the same. It's not the same, and I don't think it'll ever be the same.
We've just heard from people watching from Somalia, Bangladesh and Norway, so thanks for checking in with us. I should imagine that Somalia and Bangladesh are very affected by climate change. We hear talk of it all the time, but what does it actually mean for you and me? It normally happens very slowly. It's difficult to comprehend as it's not always visible to us. Scientists have now made a direct link between the melting Arctic ice caps and the extreme weather events affecting millions of people right now in Europe and North America. The rising temperatures that are warming the ice sheets at the top of the globe are changing the way the Gulf airstream flows, and that's affecting weather patterns. Sound like a rocket scientist? Well, who'd better to explain it than a real scientist? So earlier I spoke to the man who knows all about the weather fronts, and that's Richard Angren. Richard, Arctic temperatures incredibly important, and the impact that it has on ice sea levels. What does it mean?
Long way away, very remote, Jane. You tend not to think too much about the Arctic. But it is important, it is crucial. The Arctic sea ice has been decreasing and decreasing for many years, but that process is speeding up, partly because we live in a warmer world, of course. 2014, the warmest since 1880. 2015, warmer still. 2016, warmer still. And once you start to shrink the ice, you're no longer reflecting heat back out into space. The water absorbs the heat, and that whole melting process tends to go faster and faster, and that's what we're seeing at the moment. November sea ice actually decreasing. It's only the second time that's ever been reported.
So it doesn't bode well for 2017, does it?
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
And I'm wondering about jet streams, what sort of impact that has on this big picture?
Well, that's the real impact, if you like, because the jet stream underneath it is where all the weather systems develop. And this is what you've normally got, this big setup, this big loop. And normally it's a fairly steady, fairly strong loop, because that jet stream is blowing at, what, 300 kilometres an hour at about 8 kilometres up in the atmosphere. But once it starts to weaken, you get big loops starting to develop in it. What that means is you get warm air pushing towards the north, you get cold air pushing towards the south. So this regular feature tends to get disrupted, and that then has consequences.
And you and me, how's it going to affect us and everybody else on a day-to-day basis?
Well, you can look at single events like Storm Sandy hit New York and New Jersey. That may well have been a result of high pressure over Greenland, so it sort of steered that system in. At the moment, the weather we've got over parts of Manitoba, incredible lows, and also Chicago. We've had near record temperatures there as that cold air has plunged all the way towards the south. Over parts of Europe, Eastern Europe at the moment, really, really cold air. It's been there for quite some time. So it's certainly having impacts really all around the globe.
Thank you, Richard.